Today, we're diving into a story that reveals everything wrong with the incentive structures driving European policy. We're talking about defense stocks crashing because peace might actually break out. We'll examine how courts in Brussels are forcing sovereign nations to recognize laws they never passed. We'll look at strikes shutting down major airports, tragic incidents involving public servants, and a reckoning for climate activists who thought they were untouchable. And I've saved the most unsettling development for the end, a warning about the future of work that should concern every single one of us. I spent years inside one of those big, prestigious media organizations, the kind everyone trusts, and I watched day after day as stories got bent and twisted to serve agendas I couldn't stomach anymore. So I walked away. Now I'm on my own, answering to nobody but you, and I'm here to connect the dots they don't want connected. And speaking of connecting dots, if you appreciate the work that goes into fact-checking every claim, into avoiding the fake news that floods our feeds every single day, then please hit that like button and subscribe. It means everything to a small independent operation like mine. And if you can, consider sponsoring this channel. Your support keeps this work alive, keeps me digging deeper, keeps me free to tell you what really matters. And I promise you, if you stay with me until the end of this episode, you'll understand why what's happening right now should alarm all of us. The most crucial piece is coming at the very end. So let's talk about something bizarre. European headlines are screaming about fear, but it's not the fear you'd expect, it's fear of peace. That's right, defense contractors, the weapons manufacturers, the military-industrial giants and their lobbyists are panicking because there's a real chance the war in Ukraine might actually end. The prospect of peace is crushing defense stocks across Europe. Investors are reacting with sheer panic. Germany's largest industrial and defense conglomerate, Rheinmetall, saw its shares plummet by roughly 14%. Hensoldt, another major German defense and technology firm, also dropped about 14%. Think about the irony here. Good news, the possibility of peace is causing chaos in financial markets. When Donald Trump unveiled his plan for resolving the conflict, the fear among military-industrial companies intensified like never before. Now it's no secret that these same companies employ armies of lobbyists whose entire job is to terrify populations with warnings of inevitable war. Why? Because fear drives their stock prices higher and higher. So when peace becomes a real prospect, not everyone's going to be celebrating. Keep that in mind. But here's where things get even more intriguing. Both Britain and Germany are ramping up campaigns against Donald Trump. In Germany, according to a survey by the Kerber Foundation, 73% of Germans now view relations with America as critical, as problematic. Compare that to just a year ago under Joe Biden, when 74% of Germans considered those ties excellent. Quite a shift, wouldn't you say? Germans aren't particularly worried about their chancellor, who's sitting at historically low approval ratings. You already know that. Instead, the majority, according to this polling, are concerned about the United States. And across the channel in Britain, we're seeing something similar. Nearly half of Britons believe Donald Trump is an obstacle to peace in Ukraine. They're not anxious about Keir Starmer? Absolutely not. He leads a minority, everyone knows that, and his approval ratings are dismal. No, British citizens are worried that Trump is creating barriers. But here's what you need to understand. Trump isn't backing down. Not a chance. So those defense stocks, they're going to keep falling. And the fear-mongering, that's only going to intensify. Watch how the rhetoric escalates in the coming weeks. And if you're wondering how all these pieces connect, just stay with me. The pattern becomes unmistakable when you see what's happening next. Now today, Europe is also buzzing over a ruling from the European Court of Justice. The court has determined that EU member states must recognize same-sex marriages legally performed in another EU member state. So if a same-sex couple gets married in Germany, Poland must recognize that marriage, even though Polish law doesn't permit such unions. According to the EU court, just because Polish legislation doesn't allow marriages between persons of the same sex doesn't mean Poland can refuse to recognize such marriages performed elsewhere in the EU. You can imagine the reaction in Poland right now. This is exactly the kind of top-down mandate that fuels resentment toward Brussels. It's not about the merits of the issue itself. It's about sovereignty, about whether nations control their own laws or whether courts in Brussels can override them. And that tension isn't going away. Meanwhile, strikes are erupting again. Brussels Airport cancelled over 100 flights today due to a massive strike. Airport staff responsible for security and ground services are protesting against the government's harsh austerity plans. People refuse to accept deteriorating conditions, but as you well know, nobody's been promising a bright future for a long time now. All we hear is constant fear-mongering and belt-tightening, and now something truly disturbing from Germany. Being a judicial officer, a bailiff, has become dangerous, life-threatening even. In the town of Bexbach in Saarland, a judicial officer was deliberately targeted and tragically lost his life while performing his duties. The prosecutor's office isn't releasing details yet, but they've promised more information soon. This is the kind of story that should alarm everyone. When public servants carrying out legal functions face violent attacks, something fundamental has broken down. But wait, because here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Also in Germany, and this is surprising, authorities have finally handed down a harsh ruling against climate activists. A district court in Hamburg ruled that 10 activists from the notorious Last Generation movement must pay Lufthansa 43,000 euros in compensation for damages. If these activists can't pay that sum or provide guarantees they'll eventually cover it, they're looking at up to 2 years. We're talking about an action from July 13, 2023, when these eco-protesters brazenly broke into Hamburg Airport and completely shut down operations. Their sponsor, whoever's bankrolling them, will likely refuse to pay. But these young activists who caused chaos for thousands of travelers, they're learning a hard lesson. Sooner or later, you answer for reckless behavior, and they're realizing now exactly who they shouldn't have gotten involved with. They've figured that out. And speaking of climate activists getting off easy, everyone remembers Greta Thunberg and her crew. In Venice, Greta and other activists audaciously dyed the famous Grand Canal neon green. On the Rialto Bridge, they unfurled a banner reading "Stop Ecocide." Greta appeared publicly wearing a Palestinian scarf. The regional governor called it blatant disrespect to the city and its history, warning that even environmentally safe substances can damage Venetian canals. Venice police banned Greta from entering the city for 48 hours and fined her 150 euros. If it had been anyone else, the fine would have been massive, possibly even jail time. But not for her. Never for her. There's a double standard operating here that's impossible to miss. Now here's something that should grab your attention. Over 40 members of the European Parliament from the right-wing group Patriots for Europe have registered a draft resolution concerning Hungary. They're accusing EU leadership of interfering in Hungary's 2026 election campaign. These MEPs apparently have good reason to believe interference is happening, or perhaps already underway. They're calling on the EU Council to stop immediately. But almost simultaneously, the European Parliament passed a resolution by majority vote declaring there's a clear risk of Hungary seriously violating the values upon which the EU is founded. The resolution states that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's rule threatens the rule of law and European values. So we've got accusations flying in both directions. The intrigue continues. Let's see what develops. In France, authorities have arrested a man believed to be the fourth and final member of a group involved in the sensational theft from the Louvre Museum in Paris. But the jewels, still missing. Meanwhile, French President Macron hasn't expressed disagreement with the American president's plans. Instead, he stated, "We are at a decisive stage in negotiations over Ukraine. Perhaps he's scheming something. We're watching closely. And here's where things get truly concerning. The part I promised would matter most." Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, has issued a stark warning. She said, and I'm quoting closely here, "Artificial intelligence is penetrating our lives extraordinarily rapidly. In advanced economies, 60% of jobs could be affected by these changes. In emerging markets, around 40%. In low-income countries, 26%. Thus, artificial intelligence is covering the labor market like a tsunami." That's her exact word. Tsunami, some jobs will vanish entirely. Others will transform with new responsibilities emerging. Brand new professions tied to artificial intelligence will appear. But here's what Georgieva conveniently didn't address. Where will people whose jobs are eliminated by AI actually go? What's being prepared for them? She remained silent on that crucial question. Very convenient silence. And if you think that's abstract, something distant, let me tell you what's already happening. American media outlets are now openly reporting that China is living in the future, if we're being honest. China is rapidly implementing artificial intelligence across manufacturing and logistics. They're determined to cement their position as the world's factory for decades to come, to permanently outpace the United States. Many countries have already fallen hopelessly behind China. That ship has sailed. In the United States, the Trump administration plans to review all refugees who arrived during Joe Biden's presidency. The new plan requires comprehensive review and re-interviews of everyone admitted between January 20th, 2021 and February 20th, 2025. In other words, America is becoming a much harder destination for ordinary people seeking refuge, unlike the open-door policy under Biden. So let's connect everything we've covered today. Defense companies panicking over peace prospects, courts in Brussels overriding national sovereignty, strikes against austerity spreading, public servants facing danger while performing basic duties, climate activists finally facing real consequences, except when they're celebrities, EU institutions accused of election interference while simultaneously accusing member states of threatening European values, and looming over all of it, this warning about artificial intelligence reshaping employment on a scale we've never seen, with no clear plan for the people left behind. What do all these stories share? They reveal systems under immense strain, institutions losing legitimacy, populations losing faith in the people making decisions that affect their lives, and massive technological and economic shifts happening faster than societies can adapt. This isn't abstract political theory. These are real pressures building in real time. And if you've stayed with me this long, you understand why I saved that AI warning for the end. Because unlike stock market fluctuations or political scandals, the transformation of the labor market affects everyone. Your job, your children's futures, the stability of entire communities. So those are the developments that matter right now. Write your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think about everything happening, everything I've laid out here. I want to hear your perspective. And if this analysis helped you see connections you hadn't noticed before, please hit that like button and subscribe. Consider supporting this channel if you can. Your sponsorship keeps independent voices alive in a media landscape increasingly dominated by interests that don't serve you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Look, I need to be honest with you for a moment. Running an independent channel like this, it's not easy. Every single story you hear from me goes through hours of verification. I cross-reference sources, I dig through documents, I fact-check every claim because I refuse to spread the fake news that's drowning the internet right now. That's my promise to you. But this work, it takes time, it takes resources, and frankly, it takes a toll. I don't have a corporate newsroom backing me up. I don't have teams of researchers or deep pockets funding this operation. It's just me doing everything I can to bring you the truth without the spin, without the agenda. So if what I'm doing here resonates with you, if you value having someone who will connect the dots honestly and fearlessly, then please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel. It costs you nothing, but it means absolutely everything to me. And if you're in a position to go further, consider becoming a sponsor. Your support, no matter how small, keeps this work alive. It keeps me independent. It keeps me answering only to you, not to advertisers or corporate interests. Together, we can build something real here, something that actually serves you. Thank you for being here, truly.